I work a couple of different jobs. I also volunteer my time in various local communities and do a lot of research, most of it going on YouTube, this one talking about tech, the other one talking about ecological psychology. And what I want to do in this video is share how I would set up my system with calendars and tasks if I was to start from scratch, to give you an idea of everything that goes into my current system. For this video, I'm going to use a demo account. You can see I'm in Google Calendar. This is what I personally use. And I've got a work calendar, which is the main default calendar of Google. I then have an additional events calendar, the birthday calendar, which is by default, the task calendar, which is Google Tasks, and then a personal calendar. So I've got the default and 2 additional calendars, which you can add by add and then create a new calendar. Events that go on my work calendar and on my personal calendar, I class as actionable events. So these are either meetings I need to attend virtually or in person, and then places I need to go, so playing sport or meeting up with someone at the pub. But then there are also additional events, so socials or things that I want to know when they're on, local events that I might want to attend, but I haven't decided whether I'm going to go yet. So I have it in my calendar so I can turn it on or turn it off and see what I might want to go to or things that I might want to attend, such as social meetups. But these are additional events for viewing, not actionable events like in my work and personal calendars. Now, I mentioned I have 2 jobs. One of them I can manage in my own personal Google Calendar. The other one is an Outlook calendar. And obviously I can't see Outlook inside of Google unless I create an integration. But what I actually personally do is use Morgan. Disclaimer here, I do work for Morgan, but I use Morgan to show the calendars of both. So if I go into the settings here, go to calendars, you can see I've got my Morgan Outlook account and my Google account both inside of Morgan, so I can see the events for both calendars. You can see I've got the 3 Google events, but then I also have all of my work events from the Outlook calendar showing. I can hide them or show them when I want to at the push of a button, but that's a Morgan feature I might go into later. But then I have lots of tasks I want to do during work. Now when I come in, I can create a task, and this goes into Google Tasks. I can add the task and then save, and now I've added that task into Google Tasks, which you can see at the top. If I click here, it goes to Google Tasks, and there it is. Alternatively, if I want to see the Google Tasks next to my calendar, I can open up the sidebar and I can see the task in the sidebar. It was due yesterday, so I can move it to, let's say, in the future, and there it is. It's on the calendar, it's due at 8:30. However, if I get tasks from people at work, they will often come from Notion, which Google doesn't integrate with Notion. I could put the events on the calendar, but it's a bit cumbersome and doesn't quite work. So I want to bring my collaborative tasks through Notion. Then adding a Google task on my computer isn't as easy as the way that I do it in Morgan, which is pushing the global hotkey, and then it brings it up and I can just type out the task. But the biggest limitation I have with Google Tasks is they can only be scheduled on the calendar in one space. So if this task takes longer than this half-an-hour slot, I then have to move it to the next one and then move it to the next one. And this is just irritating when a task takes longer than half an hour or the slot that's on the calendar. But I still use Google Tasks for 2 main reasons. The first one is to bring emails from Gmail into Google Tasks. And you can see I've sent myself an email. Now, if you don't have hotkeys enabled in Google Mail, you can go to Settings, see your settings, scroll down inside of General, and you should see, there it is, keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to keyboard shortcuts, turn them on. And now that I've turned them on, when I click into the email, push Shift-T, it now adds this email into Google Tasks. And I can add a due date, so let's say it's due tomorrow. See, it's added the email link down the bottom as well. I'm going to leave it in the My Task list, but it means when I come back to Google, there it is. There is the task inside of Google Tasks, which I can then drag into the calendar. So now I've got to record the video. I'm actually recording the video right now. So I'd drag it in there, and you can see the due date is being changed. But you'll notice the due date is probably actually like Saturday or Friday whenever I'm posting this video, but I only have one option for the date in Google Tasks. I can't schedule it and then show the due date somewhere else. It's just the one date. The other use case I have for Google Tasks is when I'm driving somewhere and I think of something I need to do, I'll be like, hey Google, remind me to do X thing later today, and it will do that. And I can do that in the car, it adds it to Google Tasks, and then I can organize it later on. But then I also have one other area for actionable tasks. So we've got the Google Tasks from email and phone in the car, Morgan Tasks for when I've got things on the computer and working on my phone, and Notion for work assigned tasks. These are all actionable. And then I also have my research tasks, which for those of you that have watched the channel or have looked at any of my thumbnails, I use Obsidian. I have used Obsidian for years, and this is just a dummy vault. You can see I've got introduction, discussion, conclusion, and then I've got some task blocks inside of my Obsidian Vault. And there is almost no calendar, task management, project management type app that integrates with Obsidian that I have found really, except from Morgan, which is the tool that I personally use. And the reason I like having my Obsidian tasks inside of my calendar app is I can actually schedule time for it. You can see 3 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, and 4 hours are my estimated time, and I can block it out in my calendar according to my time available. But a recent addition, which is really interesting, brings files in as tasks as well, which I'll go through a little later on. But if I come into Morgan, I can add a task. So don't forget Obsidian Bases, because I want to talk about that later. So that's in the inbox. Then I can add an integration. I'm going to add Google Tasks, sign in with Google Tasks. I'm not going to sign into Notion, but it would be the same principle. And you can see I can't sign in at the moment into Obsidian because I'm on the web app of Morgan, not on the desktop app. So I'll do that a little bit later. But you can see now Google Tasks is an option. So I can click into Google Tasks, and there are those 3 tasks that I added. If I go to the far left menu, it then shows me all 3. I can then change the viewing options, which is where I start to organize my tasks. I can group by source, space, list, project, etc. and also filter out anything I don't want to see. But what I do is I say no grouping, because I don't want any grouping, because I want all of the tasks to be shown. I can still see this is from Google Tasks, this is from Morgan, and when Obsidian comes in, they'll also be there. But what you'll notice is I'm ordering by Morgan priority factor, and this is taking due date, importance, the date the task was created, the last time it was modified, the time estimate, how much time I actually have to do this thing in the day, all into account, and putting them in order. I'm going to go into the view settings, go to show schedule all, and you can see due today, due tomorrow, and due soon lists are also showing. So this is the due date of those tasks. The add task and record video have a due date. If I go back to Google Calendar, you can see there's the time, and there's no due date on that one, so there's no date on it, which is the one down here that doesn't have a due date on. And for those of you unfamiliar with Morgan, you'll actually see those due dates up here at the top. So the add the task due date is there. If I move it to Wednesday, I've now changed the due date, and now it's due tomorrow. So it's changed to due tomorrow, and the same thing there. But it doesn't mean that I can't schedule it. Unlike in Google Calendar, I can say, you know what, I'm going to record the video right here. And now it's been added to my Google Calendar. So when I double click, you can see it's in my work calendar inside of my Google Calendar. I can change it to personal or additional events if I want to, but I'm quite happy to leave it here. And I can also schedule this in again. So, okay, maybe I don't get all the recording done today. I can do it tomorrow. And you can see now it's going to say, do you want to update the due date? Because I'm not going to get it done tomorrow. I say yes, now the due date is going to be moved to tomorrow, and all of this syncs back to Google Tasks. So you can see Google Tasks now has the task due tomorrow, and the slots in Google show as events because Morgan is saying they're tasks, and Google doesn't have the ability to show multiple versions of the same task. You see it's just the one task at the top because that's the due date. These planned sessions come in as events, but in Morgan you can tick them off. So I've done this one, and let's say I've also done this one. It says now the task will be closed inside of Google Tasks, and now it's finished. It's closing the task, it's done, due date's finished, and if I go back to Google Calendar, you can see it's just finished off and the task is complete. As for the calendar shortcut I showed earlier, if I come to the top of Morgan, you can see I've got all these calendars and I've got numbers next to them. So if I push 4 on my keyboard, it's only showing me the holiday calendar because that's the calendar set. If I push 1 on the keyboard, it's going to show me all of the calendars with calendar set 1. So it doesn't show me any of these. If I push 2, it's now going to hide the work. So now Morgan work, the Morgan job isn't showing, and this helps me visually see what's actually going on. And so I use the calendar sets to organize my events, and I use the task sidebar to organize my tasks. And just as a sort of quick additional tip, at the end of the day, I actually have a recurring task that says, let's go task space, inbox, repeats every day. That's personal. Let's save it. I have a recurring task at the end of the day, just like that. And so what I can do is come into the inbox and then move these to the appropriate task list. So let's add a task list, YouTube, bread, save. And now what I would do is go through the inbox and say, yep, this needs to go to YouTube, save. And now I've organized the types of tasks into different task lists. Now when I come into Morgan on desktop, everything's exactly the same. I've still got my calendar sets. You can see they're all here. I've still got all of the calendars, but I've got the Obsidian integration for research, which is the hugest thing. I know it's not a word, but it's the hugest thing for me as an Obsidian user. It means I can organize all of my tasks together. So you can see we've got literature review, methods and results, introduction and discussion, all with the time estimate on there. If I was to go to Morgan, click in here, you can see we've got the estimate as 1 hour. Inside of Obsidian, I put it in the task title, which if it's just a block is there, it's got the square brackets and then 4 hours. But if I add a checkbox property called completed, let's just say it's not complete because it isn't, and then come back to Morgan, you can see research essay is now showing, and underneath it are the 4 task blocks. I have subtasks of the main task. Now, I personally don't use the task blocks underneath the main task because Morgan's AI Planner doesn't currently work with subtasks, so I use the main task, but it does mean that the Obsidian Bases, the new Obsidian Bases core plugin, works with this. And as a quick overview, you can see here we've got a new bases view. It's showing me just the 2 bases. I can add the properties, so completed, due date, duration. I can come in here and add a due date, let's say the 2nd, duration, let's say, I don't know, 300, to make it a little bit more realistic. So now when I come back to Morgan, the due date is Thursday and it's been added, the due date Thursday has been added to all those subtasks as well. But if I was to come onto the subtask and say, let's go due today, you can see the subtask introduction is now due today. So I can use due dates, plan dates inside of Morgan with my Obsidian tasks and my Google tasks and my Notion tasks and my Morgan tasks all in the same place. But for me, as I say, I don't use those small tasks, so I would just have Research Essay 2. You can see inside of the bases, now we've got the task here, which is kind of like a project, and it's just showing. And if we, let's duplicate this again, so make a copy, let's say 3, and then move the due date to the next week. Now, inside of the bases view, I've got these tasks showing, and all 3 of them are incomplete with different days, but they all show up inside of Morgan in the sidebar as 3 different tasks. So if we go M to the month view, let's actually delete that inbox task because I don't want it. You can see we've got the Research Essay 2, and then if I go to the next month, we've got Research Essay 3. And this is where I can also be a bit more custom with the way that I use Morgan and Obsidian, because if I was to change this research to, let's say, YouTube, because this is the YouTube video that I'm currently working on. When I come back to Morgan and look into the sidebar, you can see now we've got a new tag, YouTube tag, but inside of Google Tasks, we've got Morgan Tasks, we've got the YouTube task list. I can create a custom view for just those things. So I'm going to go to Filter, Morgan, scroll down, YouTube, Obsidian, scroll down to YouTube tag, and then Save. YouTube, let's go red, save it. And now I can see the Obsidian task and the YouTube task just from those 2 YouTube lists. So it's a custom view for just YouTube stuff. When I head back, I have the all tasks view, Morgan and all the sources. But when I come in here, I can click on YouTube and now we're back to this custom saved filter. And just for clarity and completeness, if you schedule a task from Obsidian onto Morgan, again, just like Google Tasks, it will put it in one of the connected calendars. So it's orange, it's currently in my work calendar. I could put it into my personal calendar. And now when I come back to Google, you'll see I have a Research Essay 3 event inside of Google, because again, Google doesn't really see tasks the same way other apps do, such as Morgan. But I don't want either of these, so I'm just going to bulk delete them. That was a Shift, Control, and bulk delete. Which brings me to defending my time. If, for example, I'm going somewhere or I have a meeting, how can I defend the time before it? So the travel time or the buffer time after it, because meetings tend to go a bit longer than planned. Oh, in Google or in Outlook, I'd create another event and say, yeah, this is buffer time. It goes into the personal calendar and maybe I change the color to purple or something so it looks a little different, but it's still on the same calendar. I can say, yep, I'm still kind of doing this thing, but I'm not. But that's a manual creation, and I don't know when it comes to travel time anyway, if it was before it, for example. I don't know. Oh, wow, I forgot I can't drag an event backwards. I have to drag it forwards in Google. There we go. I don't know how long this might be according to Google Maps to get to the location. So let's say I add a location inside of this event. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get there. It's a kind of a guess, or I need to know ahead of time. When I come into Morgan, I can defend my time automatically by using their Morgan workflows. You'll notice there are 3. There is one for the buffer time, so when there's an attendee in a meeting, it will create buffer time. When I'm going somewhere, it will automatically create travel time, and the calendar propagation one, which I'll go through in a second. So now I've created an automated travel time workflow. I've turned it on active. I've manually run it, but it does automatically run in the background. And now when I go back to Morgan, It should have, yeah, it has, added travel time before and after from the location that I put in for the travel time to the destination. So this is automatically generated every 14 days. It sort of checks your calendar to see if you've got any events. Same with the buffer time. Another way I defend my time is through the calendar propagation. So if I go to edit this workflow, there is my work calendar from Morgan, but my family can't see that work calendar. So what I actually need is my work calendar from Morgan to be mirrored or shown or duplicated in my personal work calendar for my other job, so my family can see when I'm busy or not. There are loads of other options here, but it means that my Morgan calendar can be seen by my family. If I save and then run, all the events on my Morgan calendar will be duplicated to my personal work calendar. Now, because they're duplicated from Outlook to Google, I don't even need to be using Morgan to see this. So you can see inside of Google, I'm now busy via Morgan, because these are all events inside of my Outlook work calendar that's in the future. There's no point in looking in the past, where I'm going to be busy. And when I come into Morgan, you can see there they are, busy via Morgan. If I then show that calendar, you can see now we've got my work calendar and the busy propagated calendar. What I personally do is actually merge the duplicate events. You can see now there's sort of a gradient between the two, so I can see, and if I double click into an event, you can see the event appears in two different calendars. I've got stand up and gather, and then I can go here, and now it's busy in Morgan, or busy via Morgan inside of my work personal calendar. So my family can see this event, but not this event. The next way I defend my time is just by putting habits and recurring things in, such as lunch. So I'm going to go task, lunch. I'm going to do this every single day and just save it. Now lunch is going to go in there for all the days, so I know that I should be eating lunch at some point. And the same with dinner and cleaning teeth, drinking water, all those sort of small habits, meditation if you meditate, those sorts of things. Something I personally like doing with my projects is if research essay is a project that I'm working on, I will drag it up into the all day section and then drag it all the way across so I know this is the project I'm working on. And what this allows me to do is then schedule it other times throughout the week whenever I'm going to do it, but I can see right in the all day section what it is that I'm planning on doing. I'm going to move this to the additional events calendar because what I actually have in my personal calendars is I have an events, I then have tasks, and then have projects, because when I go to the month view and I look just at my projects calendar, I can see the due dates of the task, but the main projects that I want to focus on. So it's not a Gantt chart view, but it's a nice overview of what's going on. So I can then drag this in and say, yep, research 3, that one's going to be another week there. So I can see what's going on over these 2 weeks, and if I do that ahead of time, I can see like a whole month just at a quick view, and then go 1DT, and now I'm back to today, or if I want the week, W. Which brings me to one of the main reasons I use Morgan as my planner: frames. When you create a blocked time, it could be an event, a task, or a frame. I'm going to go into a frame, I'm going to turn this to my work calendar, call it work, and let's just say YouTube is what I'm working on. I can put YouTube, and it's just going to put that saved filter in this frame. Is going to repeat every day. I push save, and you can see these frames are now showing inside of my calendar, but when I push AI Planner, it's now suggesting tomorrow that I don't forget the Obsidian bases, which I've actually done, so I'm going to mark that one as done because I've completed it. Going to reshuffle and say research essay, do that one there, do some work there, and then do some work there on it, which is what I need to do. It's also saying, hey, you've got these other things that you might want to be focused on because they're either due soon or overdue, which is right because they will be due on Wednesday, but Morgan is suggesting I do these ones first. And as you can see, that task won't be suggested in the frame because it doesn't match the frame filters, because add the task isn't in the YouTube filter, which is what's in the frame. I'm going to push the X because I don't want to schedule everything. Let's just zoom out a little bit. That was the square brackets because I want to add another frame. Let's call it personal, put it in personal, and let's just say anything can be filtered in there. Save it. Now that frame is going to be created. Now when I push the AI Planner button, we've got all of those YouTube tasks inside of work, but then all of the other tasks can be suggested elsewhere because they fit the criteria. The research essay isn't in the YouTube tag, it's in the research tag, which is anything else. Now I can push schedule all, and my week's been scheduled. I haven't had to think about anything, it's been scheduled where I want it to be put. The only thing that can now get in the way is if an event comes in. So, oh no, an event has been blocked. Something's come in, what does Morgan do? It tells me, hey, you've got a conflict, what do you want to do with it? Reschedule this as soon as possible. It will throw it to tomorrow because that's the next available slot. I can reprioritize with the AI planner, so you can see now it's moving those blue personal tasks away because they are flexible and saying, hey, you should probably do this after the buffer time, or I can just unschedule the task. So you can see it's currently here. I could unschedule the task. It can be rescheduled for tomorrow, or these blue tasks can be reprioritized with the AI planner to another time. If, however, I decide I definitely want to do this research essay right here, I can right click and make it not flexible. So this means the AI planner is not going to move it. If I double click, you can see it's now not flexible. I can change it there. And so if I recreate that conflict and we get the suggestion pop up, reprioritize the AI planner, it's now going to throw it to tomorrow because it can't move anything later on in the day, giving me, the human, more control, which I love. So I'm capturing tasks, I'm organizing tasks, I'm defending my time, and then I'm executing, typically with the AI planner and managing the conflicts, but it's just a case of reschedule things where need be and push the button to see what else I can do in the time that I have allocated for my ideal plan.